Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you something a little bit different on the channel. I haven't done a video like this for ages, it seems. And I have been tagged by my good YouTube friend, Lisa Davey. If you haven't checked her channel out, I will leave a link in the comments to her original tag video. Go and give that a watch. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to her channel. And the tag is your favorite movie genre, or genres, I guess, and subgenres associated with that. And it really got me thinking, this subject, really, because I feel as though I'm a different kind of person, than what obviously when I was younger. When I was younger, if this question was asked of me, it would have been sci-fi action all the way, mainly action. Now, because since doing this channel, I have developed, if you like, a love for a lot of genres, to be honest. I like a good drama film. I like a film that's going to put a lump in my throat and a tear down my cheek now and again. Sometimes I just, because I love the craft of acting, I like to see a mind-blowingly good performance from, and that's what a drama film sometimes give you, a good drama film, like The Father with Anthony Hopkins, who gives one of the greatest on-screen performances I've ever seen. Jack Nicholson, as good as it gets, blows your mind. It's that good. You could go on and on and on. Brendan Fraser, in The Whale. I mean, stunning stuff. And that's what I like sometimes. I like sometimes to cleanse my palate, because I do watch a lot of shit on this channel sometimes. I like sometimes to cleanse my palate and watch a bloody good drama. Ordinary Angels, that came out earlier this year with Alan Ritchson from Reacher and Hilary Swank. Nobody watched that film, but I guarantee if you watch it, you will have a tear in your eye. It's a bloody well-made and very good film. But I have to be honest, drama's not my favourite genre. I just like a fantastic drama now and again. One genre that will never, ever get mentioned on this list is musicals. I hate musicals. I hate them so much. I just don't like musicals. If there's a musical on, I'll leave the room. I can't stand it. I think they're more unrealistic than a sci-fi film or a Marvel film. They're more believable to me, because it's like you at work sat having a conversation with someone and then just breaking into song and like nobody blinks an eye. It's utter twaddle. I don't like musicals. There's only one musical that I can stomach, really, and that's Charlie the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory, the Gene Wilder one, basically, from the 70s. I grew up with that. I don't mind that one. I can watch that one. Beyond that, no, I've been scarred. I went to the cinema to see, oh God, that bloody Yabba one. I've tried to block it from my mind, with Meryl Streep and Pierce Brosnan and all the rest. My wife went to the cinema and I had to go because she'd agreed to go and see The Dark Knight with me the week before or something. And honestly, that was one of the worst cinema experiences of my life. In fact, it probably was the worst. Awful, terrible, psychologically damaging, that film. So musicals, definitely not. So I've tried to narrow this list down as best I can, because I can give a good argument for a few genres why they're my favourites. Thrillers used to be one of my least favourites, but now I really quite enjoy them because I've watched some brilliant thrillers since I've been doing this channel, and I've got a much deeper respect for them than I used to have. When I was younger, thrillers were dull as dishwater to me, generally speaking. But actually, thrillers can be really quite layered and deep and very, very tense if made correctly. And unfortunately, I'd probably watched quite a few that weren't made correctly when I was younger. I've watched a few decent ones on this channel, and I do respect that genre a lot more. Action films I absolutely love. Like I said, if you'd have asked me this in my 20s, it would have been action all the way. Grew up on Arnie films, Van Damme, Seagal, Chuck Norris, Stallone, obviously. They made some incredible films that will have a big place in my life still. Absolutely outstanding films that they made in the 80s and 90s, some of them. The Lethal Weapons, the Die Hards, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and I love like the John Wicks, the modern action films are getting. There's some real quality out there as well in regards to modern action films. But I'm going to kind of go with two genres. I'm going to narrow it down to do two genres that, for me, for two similar reasons, and it's more about nostalgia and what I grew up with, and what I was introduced to at a young age, and it stuck with me, sort of thing. And the first one I want to talk about is science fiction, and I think the reason why I love science fiction, and I can narrow it down to two things really why I love science fiction, is I grew up watching Star Trek. The original TV show. My dad was a huge Star Trek fan. I have mentioned this before on the channel when I did the Star Trek reviews a couple of years ago. He loved Star Trek, my dad. So I'd be sat watching Star Trek with him, and that was the main reason to be with him and watch it. But I actually grew to really love it. And then when they started bringing the movies out on the big screen, my dad used to take me to watch them. I don't remember him taking me to see the original, but I could be wrong. But I definitely remember Star Trek 2 and Beyond. And my dad unfortunately died in 1991. I think the last one that we saw together was Star Trek 5. That's where my love for Star Trek comes from, and my love for science fiction started. But also, the first film that I ever went to the cinema to watch was Star Wars. That was my first cinema experience as a young boy. I was 4 or 5 years old, never been to the cinema before, no idea what was happening. I was just plonked in a seat, a big screen there, and imagine that, your first time at the cinema, 5 years oldish, and you sat in front of it, and then boom, Star Wars comes on. That is definitely going to have an impact on you growing up, and it certainly did influence me as regards to my love for science fiction. So a good quality science fiction film for me is, something to get excited about. Now, my absolute... I'm going to put science fiction like just slightly underneath what I'm going to put as my favourite genre. And that's horror. Now, I'll be honest. When I thought about this, because I haven't thought about it often what my favourite genres are. I just kind of watch films and enjoy them. But I think I can pin it down to when I started this channel. I review. If you look at my film reviews and then you look at the horror playlist, it's got the most films on it, the horror playlist on my channel. And so I've reviewed more horrors than anything else. And I've grown to have a real love and affection for them. And I think there's a few reasons for that. And again, some of that is nostalgia and me as a boy. When I was young, I'm from the VHS days, and in those days you'd go to the video store, and this was even before Blockbuster in the UK. You'd go to the video store, on a Friday night with your family, and you'd choose movies and stuff, and we as kids would choose something to watch, and my dad would choose something to watch with my mum. And they would choose things like Alien, The Thing, An American Werewolf in London, things like that. And that's all well and good, but we used to sneak down and watch them. And I've got vivid memories of watching Alien, and it's scaring the absolute pants off me, and I wouldn't eat egg for weeks afterwards. The Thing absolutely terrified me, that film, when I saw that for the first time, and I would have been maybe 11, 12 years old when I saw that. And An American Werewolf in London. Now, and I have explained this before on the channel, I live in Yorkshire. Where I grew up was a place called Heptonstall in Calderdale, which is where I live now, Calderdale, but it's more Hebden Bridge way. And it's like a hill right at the top of Hebden Bridge. And it's a lovely little village, Heptonstall, but there's a lot of fields, there's a lot of grassland, and there's a lot of, one of those places with a lot of mystery and history. So that moor scene at the beginning of American Werewolf in London terrified me beyond belief, because I just needed to look out of the window and there was a moor, if you like. That was my backyard basically. So I was convinced, you know what I mean, that, well, that there was werewolves out there, and it petrified me, that film. And it still makes my it gets me all tingly when I watch that scene at the beginning when they're on the moors, because it is so brilliantly shot. It's absolutely terrifying to this day, and I think it's one of the most effective horror scenes that's ever been put to screen. But then I've also got films like Salem's Lot that I watched as a youngster. The original, you know, David Soul, Salem's Lot. Very, very scary vampire film, especially when you're a kid. And the scene where the boy is like floating and tapping on the window, asking him to be let in with the eyes that light up. Honest to God. Scary stuff when you're young, is that kind of stuff. And then, you know, me and my brother would kind of watch crap like Rawhead Rex, which is, again, it's when you watch it now, you're kind of like, what the hell is this? But when you watch it as a youngster, it's like, it's the best thing since sliced bread, films like that. You know, Razorback, things like that as a youngster you watched. And I've developed over the last, you know, 6-7 years or so a real love for horror, and especially found footage, which obviously I know you, Lisa, know that I love found footage, and many of you that watch this channel know that I love found footage. I've got a playlist dedicated to found footage films. I think I've done 3 top 10 lists about found footage films. So it's fair to say I like found footage, and I think there's a reason for that. I think why I love found footage is because it's, when it's done right, you're there with them in the film. It feels like this could be happening, and you're there with them in the moment, and that can be absolutely terrifying and petrifying to me. And so I just think when it's done right, and I'll be the first to admit, and I have reviewed a lot of found footage films on this channel. I'll be the first to admit that probably 25% of them are done right. The other 75%, you know, they don't immerse you enough. I'm not saying the rest are crap, but they aren't like the Borderlands level, or obviously Blair Witch level, and you know, Grave Encounters, and As Above, So Below. I mean, you go on and on and on. There's there's so many fantastic found footage films that unfortunately there's a lot of not so good ones that kind of lower the, if you like, the quality of the other ones. It dilutes the quality that is there, and because they're so cheap to make, found footage, you know, anybody can do it. You know, go and pick up a camera and head out with a couple of grand in your pocket, and you probably be able to make yourself one as well. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, and that's part of the reason again why I think horror is such a great genre. Because if you've got like 5-10 million budget, like some of these smaller budgeted horror films, if that strikes a chord with an audience, you could come away with like a 200 million profit, and then that guarantees sequels. But if you watch an action film with a 5 million budget or less, they're terrible. If you watch a science fiction film generally with a 5 million budget or less, they're god awful. And horror's one of the few genres that can get away with small budgets and still strike that chord in audience members. You know, just they can make the hairs on the back of your neck and on your arms stand up. And horror films is like the only genre that garners that kind of reaction from me. And I've said this before, when I watch a good horror, I go cold. My fingers go cold while I'm watching it, and I get all shivery. And I know it's doing its job then. I know that horror film is doing its job. So you've got like goosebumps, you've got the hair standing up on your arms, on the back of your neck, and my fingers go all cold. And, you know, I've had some fantastic experiences watching horror on my own and with my wife, Lisa, downstairs. If we'll sometimes put a horror film on, and if my wife is enjoying a horror film, she'll kind of be like jumping in the chair and stuff. So therefore, she makes me jump. So it's almost like going on a funfair ride, watching a horror film with her. And whereas I don't necessarily jump about in the chair when I'm watching them myself, it has a different effect on me. Like I say, the cold fingers and the hair standing up on the back of my neck and stuff. And so you've got the whole range of horror films from like a couple of grand right up to like 100 million, you know, the Conjuring type of budgets. And generally speaking, you've got a good chance of having a hit on your hand with a horror film. But at the same time, you can have some absolutely god awful ones, and Lord knows I have watched and reviewed enough of them on this channel. So yeah, I mean, while it's found footage isn't just my only subgenre I like in horror, you know, I like creature features, you know, I like possession films, I like supernatural films, that kind of stuff. I like slashers if they're done right. I mean, my favourite franchise for slashers is Halloween. I love them. I love Michael Myers as a character. I've just reviewed all of Friday the 13th. I thought, well, I haven't. I've got Jason X and the remake to watch yet, but I've quite enjoyed them. But they're not to me at the same level as some of the Halloween films. I'll say not all of them. So I do like a slasher. A home invasion, if it's done right, is okay, but I think that can be sometimes quite dull. But yeah, I will. I'm not a big fan of body horror. I'll be honest there. You know, body horror for me isn't. I think that's like trying to shock you for just for the sake of it, sort of thing. And so I'm not overly keen on body horror sometimes, and gore when there's no need for it, like over the top gore. I haven't watched the Terrifier films because I think that kind of is meant to shock and be overly gory. And I've heard a lot of good things about them. I may watch them eventually, and if I get enough of you guys asking me, I may even watch them for this Halloween. Let me see. I'm kind of regretting saying that now, but we'll see. If you guys say it and you want me to do it, I will watch them. So, yeah, that's really what my thoughts are on film genres, I suppose. I've got an affection for the majority of them, except musicals. Have I mentioned I don't like musicals? God almighty, I really don't like musicals. But I would love to hear in the comments, guys, for any of you guys that don't have a channel. I'm going to leave this as an open tag. If you've got a YouTube channel, you're more than welcome to do this tag. If you don't have a YouTube channel, let me know in the comments what your favourite genre is. Get involved in the comments. Let me know what your favourite genre is, what your favourite films are in that genre, and your favourite subgenres, and all that kind of good stuff. And thank you very much for the tag, Lisa. I hope you all enjoyed checking out this video. I will be back, of course, with plenty more reviews, content, so on and so forth on the channel very, very soon.